Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Spitz-Cohan, Executive Director of Film Pittsburgh. I'm excited today to talk to the filmmaking team from Pacified. If you guys would go around and introduce yourself and talk about tell us your title on the film, that'd be great.
My name is Paxton Winters, and I am the writer-director, and it's a huge pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
I'm Aylin Zoi Tinel. I'm the editor of the film. Thank you.
I'm Paula Linhares, and I'm the producer.
Hey, I'm Marcos Tellechea. I am one of the producers. Thank you so much. It's a huge pleasure to be with you guys today and to be part of your great festival.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to share this film with the Film Pittsburgh audience. I was so moved by the film, the father-daughter story, the cast, the being inside a community that I knew nothing about. And I'm wondering, Paxton, if you could tell us a little bit about the genesis of the story.
Sure. I had moved to Brazil about, I guess, a little over 10 years ago from Turkey, and I had worked in news features, and I started working right away with news features in Brazil. And this was right before the World Cup and the Olympics, so I was shooting a lot in the favelas, and I befriended a fixer. I don't know if you know what a fixer is, but somebody who kind of arranges your permissions and
would you describe to our audience just like the meaning of a favela? Because I didn't know going into this. So, and then also again, what you said, a fixer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So the favelas are basically, if you can imagine Rio is a city that has all of these kind of mountains throughout, and the favelas are the communities that kind of go up the sides of the mountains. They're sort of underserved communities usually. Quite often they have a sort of separate, I guess a separate kind of I don't know how to explain it, like separate, I guess you'd call it like a government or leadership. It's usually run by drug traffickers at the top. So obviously when you're shooting there, you need to work with somebody who can facilitate permission to go there, to make sure that you don't shoot something you're not supposed to shoot, to make sure that you have the proper permission. So this was a gentleman by the name of Maga, who was supposed to be with us today, but fortunately or unfortunately, he has a job. He's shooting, which is great. So he couldn't join us, but we started to become friends, and I barely spoke Portuguese at the time. He barely spoke English, but he started inviting me into the favela, and over time we developed a friendship. And then I had originally gone to Brazil for a reason. I'd gone for a relationship. The relationship ended. I was going to move back to Istanbul, and Maga and my new friends encouraged me to move into the favela. And at first I was quite reticent, but I thought I'll do it for 4 months just for, because I thought the reason I didn't want to do it is because I was afraid. So I was like, this is something maybe I should face, and it's also kind of an honor to be invited to sort of live there. So I went there, and then that 4 months turned into sort of 10 years now. And yeah, and throughout that time, Maga and another friend of ours, Joe, we came up with an idea of doing a series of kind of short films with youth from the favela, kind of to give them the tools to tell their own stories. And then some producers like Lisa Muscat, Darren Aronofsky heard about the project, encouraged us to sort of develop it into a feature-length script. And then Marcos and Paula came on board, and they helped us to really make it happen and find the financing and sort of to get Fox behind it. And then before we knew it, we were shooting, and we still kept a lot of the original cast that we, like Cassia, the lead, is from the favela, Hayani's from the favela, all the extras are from the favela, all the locations are in that same community. Am I forgetting something? There was a community outreach component as well, where we hired 2 or 3 people from the favela in each department. So it was really important for us that, as much of the budget as possible would go back into the community, and that, and that the community would benefit from it, not only financially, but also as far as learning the skill, learning a craft. And, Maga isn't with us right now because he's on set. So this is great.
There's a term here in the US called creative placemaking. And it's exactly what you describe. And it's really a mission of my organization, Film Pittsburgh. But we don't actually make movies, we just show them. But the idea is exactly what you talked about, that you're involving the community, and that you're giving something to the community while they're giving something to you. So I knew that a number of the actors came from the favela. But to hear how integrated, the idea that you had people from the community working in every department on the film set is just terrific. And
also developing the story. I mean, the story was, it's not my story. So I worked very, very closely, and my job was really to be a channel and to listen and ask questions and really try and convey sort of the experience of my friends that live there. So it was a huge responsibility, but in turn, I learned so much. I mean, I learned what real community is. It was very much an organic, integrated, collaborative film, and I think that's why why it has this kind of sense of authenticity, because I had so much. We did it together, really. Period.
That's exactly right. It's so authentic, and really, at the end of the day, it's a father-daughter story, and everybody can identify with that. I know I could, and we don't all live in communities where drug lords are running the roost, or that we need to think about that or be aware of that. But it really was an insider's view and felt very authentic. And I loved the characters that were drawn, and the idea that everybody's human, and nobody's perfect, and everybody has flaws, and yet unconditional love is unconditional love. So let's
just add really quickly.
Sure.
It's also a very important component for us and for the community, because a lot of the films that are told or that come out of the favela are focused on the violence, albeit either between traffickers or police. And our sort of our push, our aim, our desire was to really show a very human story of the people kind of living in between these forces.
Yeah. Marcos and Paula, how did you come upon the project?
Okay, so we were in Los Angeles 2013, 14 for the shootings of The Revenant, film with DiCaprio and Iñárritu that we co-financed. And we had a couple of meetings in the agencies, and Paxton agent at UTA, he introduced us to the script and to the project. Well, I remember I said, a film about favelas written by an American, I will not even read. And Paula, she took the script and she read, fortunately, and she came to me and said, well, I can see something differently here. And then we met Paxton for the first time in person, and
we fell in love completely.
As you can see, he's a very talented and charming man. So he told us his side of the story and how he had these experiences in Rio de Janeiro in the community. And Paula and I, we decided together to come on board, and we together we helped with Mag and Paxton to improve the story, and we, as we said, we sold to 20th Century Fox, and we team up here. We try to find the best people to work with us, and I think we had a great project, a great product
It
coming
was very,
from.
it was very complicated because no American producers wanted to produce it because it was in Portuguese. And then Portuguese, Brazilian producers didn't want to produce it because it was another favela film. There'd been a stream of them after City of God. So it was really quite, it was quite deft of Marcos and Paula to be able to make it happen. I have to say, it looked like it was not going to happen.
But again, Pax, it's so important now to in the world that we're living, to show the humanity. Like they're like a community, they're families over there, and not just in Morro dos Prazeres. This is in the whole country and in the world. People are like wanting to be heard. They're living in a situation that it's really urgent for us to show and to try to do something and be more humans and more kind, right?
And another thing, I think it's important to say is it was, in my opinion, and I think, well, we won in the biggest Brazilian film festival, the Mostra São Paulo. We won the prize of the award of the public. And it's very important for the Brazilian public to recognize this story, as true and as Paxton told. And it's important to say, not just for me, but for a lot of people, was, I think, the first time we saw a realistic story from the Brazilian poor neighborhoods. And
from inside.
From inside, yes. It's not, outside telling inside stories. It's a story it's a true story from the community,
What did the community? I'm assuming they've seen the film, and I'm wondering what their response was. Did you have a special screening, or?
I've screened it for groups. We plan to release, we want to do the premiere of the film for a huge audience. So, but we've shown it to people who were involved with the film. We've shown it to other groups, and yeah, it's overwhelmingly good. They're very emotional. A lot of them cry when they see it, and a lot of them express how great it is to sort of see, to see a different side of their. I wish Mago was here because it's a little awkward for me to speak for the favela, but it went very well.
It would be great, but sorry, I just
Go
want
ahead.
to complete. It's because Pacified is not Paxton's film, or Aylin, or Marcos, or Paula, or Maga. This film is part of all of us, and including the community of Prazeres. Without them, would be impossible to tell this story that we did.
So true.
I think one of the things that is so important about independent film festivals is giving voice to independent filmmakers and filmmaking communities, and the idea of seeing yourself on the screen, when that really doesn't happen in big budget Hollywood features. You're not seeing yourself on the screen. And I think that goes back to what Paxton was saying in terms of the authenticity of it. And it was so impactful on me. And I thought about that film for days after watching it. Aylin, I want to bring you into the conversation. I understand that you edited the film and you don't speak the language.
Yes, I don't.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
It was difficult, and we've been working with Paxton for over 20 years now, and we're involved in each other's projects all the time. He's my creative partner, and so I was very excited when he finally was able to shoot Pacified. But I was not really sure how to do it, because as an editor, I don't think it's right to edit a film that's in a language that you're not really familiar with, of course, because of the acting. But at the end of the day, Pax came to Istanbul with the material, and because I have an advantage of a musician, and language is like music, I sort of had an understanding of what's right and wrong and what's really working, what's not. And Pax was always with me, so from some time on, I was comfortable because I mean I was doing something and showing him, and he was pretty much okay with the acting. So that's.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was interesting
I mean, yeah,
to see how she could choose, and she would come and show and be like, "Is it right?" And I'd be like, "It's right." So,
Paxton, can you talk a little bit about the casting? I'm just fascinated by the idea that the lead actress was a young girl who had no acting experience, essentially. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she is. I would love to take all the credit for her talent, but she just is a natural monster talent. I mean, we had a couple of girls that we were sort of working with and kind of doing tests with, and she just was so incredibly natural kind of from the beginning. Her and Hayani, and we brought in Leia Garcia, which is this legendary Brazilian actress who was in Black Orpheus or Orfeo Negro, and she came to do this test scene, and Costia just wasn't phased at all. She just had such a natural rhythm. And a story I like to tell is when we brought her in, I gave her the pages of the script to read. She sat there on the couch and she read through them. And then I sat down next to her and I said, "So did you read it?" And she goes, and I said, is it okay? Like, is there anything? I was like, did you understand it? And she looked at me, she's like, "Do you understand it?" I was like, no, yeah, let's do it. So she just, I mean, there's just some things you can't be taught. I mean, you can kind of like sort of, but to be honest with you, she didn't really require that much direction. I mean, she's very smart. She understood immediately. It's also very much part of, the story is very true to sort of her real life. And so, really all we needed to do was just turn the camera on and she works her magic. And it was really interesting to see how she would work with the other actors. She's working with like really famous novella actors that are on TV that, are quite well, very well known. And you would think like somebody of her age, 13, would be intimidated or whatever.
That's awesome.
They were sometimes.
She captured the feeling that I imagine a young girl would feel about wanting to have a dad in her life. I mean, that was just really clear. That came across loud and clear. So kudos to you guys for capturing that.
Found her. Kudos to her for, I mean, it's also her strength, really. She just has this quiet sort of strength that just, I think, kind of emanates and you see it.
Yeah. Can you talk to me a little bit about the shot that is seared in my brain, the cinematography on the, of the carrying of the, was it a refrigerator? Was it, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Right. Up the hill. And every time I thought like he was going to be there, and then it just kept going up and up. I see a lot of movies, as you can imagine. That shot to me was incredibly brilliant. I just would love to hear sort of how that, how that shot came to be.
I mean, that's really sort of how, that's how there are guys that, that you hire that actually take stuff up the stairs. And to be honest with you, I had worked on a film. I'd worked as a shooter on a BBC documentary called Welcome to Rio, which was filmed right before the Olympics. And one of the characters that they followed was these, these dudes that basically carry up refrigerators and washing machines and everything. So I definitely took, the inspiration from that. And I'll admit it, I have no problems. I've told But one thing that's funny is when it was in the script, I remember we were speaking with the main actor, and he was like, he was in the favela with me. He's like, there's this one part of the script that I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if it feels real. Like the idea of him carrying this refrigerator up the stairs. Like, he's like, I'm not sure that's going to translate really well. And like 5 minutes later, there was a guy that walked by the stairs. It was like, maybe it's that way. And originally, I think the stairs were earlier on in the film because we wanted to give a sense. And I think it was Aylin that decided, very clever, to put that scene later on. Because the film starts and it's very kind of claustrophobic, and you get a sense of this very close knit community that's moving in these very tight spaces, and that's really the first time that you kind of get a sense that this is
What kind of place?
that it's like one piece of like that. There's thousands of these throughout, and it's the first time you kind of get a sense of the scale and. And I mean, you see those stairs.
Yeah.
And there's people there's people that there's elderly women, elderly men that go walking down those stairs with their groceries every day. I remember when I first went and they showed me out my house. I was like, I'm not going to live here. What happens if I live with keys? I'm not going to walk 2.5 minutes up and then an old lady, walk by me. I'm like, oh, maybe I should shut up.
Well, I think it was brilliant to put it later in the film because for exactly what you said, Paxton. It might have seemed a little, I don't know how I would have responded to it, but by the point that you showed it, I was, it's just perfect for my emotional journey through the movie. So kudos, Aylin.
For that as well, but unfortunately, she's here.
Yeah.
So,
tell us about what you're working on now. What's going on now with y'all?
What we're doing right now, next project.
About Pacified? Sorry.
Either or, what's going on with Pacified or?
And Aylin, they are there working on it, right?
Working on?
On our next project. This was the question, right? Okay, so we do have together the family again together. Aylin, Paxton, Paula, me. We are working on a project called Outside the Wire, which will be shoot in Lebanon and Iraq. So Paxton and Aylin, they are both there now scouting. We intend to start prep mid-January, so beginning 2021, if this all crazy COVID situation allows us.
It's a story basically about an American soldier who's ostensibly kidnapped by a young Iraqi insurgent, and then the film switches to the perspective of this insurgent's family as they all kind of try to decide what to do with this American soldier that's in their midst. And it's really a story of sort of them kind of coming to know each other and see each other, and for this American soldier to kind of see the experience of the occupation through the eyes of the Iraqi.
Well, I hope you'll share that with us, and that we'll have the opportunity to share it with our audiences. I can't thank you enough for being with us today, from all over the world, and for allowing us to show your great film with our Film Pittsburgh audience. So thank you to all of you, and congratulations. And Film Pittsburgh family, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you
was
so
an
much.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you.